What's up guys, Carboss here back in our video where we talk house money investing. Today we're going to talk about eBay, specifically that I'm shutting down my eBay store. More details coming right up. Alright, welcome back guys. So today's topic is eBay, right? And specifically why I'm closing down my eBay store. Now, not permanently, but at least for the time being. And I'm going to talk about some of the pros and cons, more like my experiences that I encountered with eBay in the last 1 year as a full-time reseller. Right, so I'm pretty sure a lot of you have experience with eBay, whether you're selling part-time, whether you're doing full-time and things like that. But having, run eBay for a good part of the last 10 or so months, right? I've experienced a lot of things and I've learned quite a fair bit of things as well. And which gave me the conclusion that for my business, eBay may not necessarily be the best platform. So let's talk a bit about eBay first, right? So it's the largest marketplace in the world, has the most number of eyeballs, for sports cards specifically. And starting out, if you want to sell a card, that's normally the go-to place, right? Where you can put your cards there, millions of viewers, potential customers. And of course, it comes with a fee. You got to pay a percentage, right? If you have a store like myself, you pay a bit less, but generally you pay between 13 to 15%, depending on which country you're from. Okay, so that's essentially how it works. It's pretty easy to use. I think it's a platform that's been around for ages, and there's a lot of people who stand by eBay that gives them the best results. Okay, now from my personal experience, if you're doing this on the side, right, and you just got lists, a couple of cards that you want to sell, eBay is perfectly fine, or you can go to what people recommend, to Facebook groups and things like that. But of course, eBay offers a few things that you wouldn't have in this kind of social media environment, such as like the buyer protection or seller protection in this sense, templates and stuff like that. More organized selling, better reach. So if you have a couple of cards, I would definitely still recommend eBay. No doubt there's the fees, we all don't like fees, but it comes as part and parcel of the game, right? It's like putting an ad out in the papers. Okay, you want to draw customers in, that's the way you go, right? I'm sure that you can do the same thing on social media, but the groups are limited by the number of people within those groups. So some groups have a couple of thousand people, 5,000, 10,000, but eBay, you have access to not just domestic USA customers, but you get access to lots and lots of people from the international market. So if eBay is so great, right, why aren't everybody on eBay? So obviously the fees, right? The fees is pretty hefty. So if you're selling like, a card for $100, right? So that's like potentially $15 off your total. And that can be a big deal, right? Because it's no longer in times of the pandemic where you can buy a card for 50 and maybe can actually just flip it easily for 70, 80, 90, 100, right? Those days are gone. Normal flips, you're talking about fast flips, 10%, 12%, right? So when you factor in eBay fees, it's kind of difficult. And I experienced that firsthand when I first started, right? To me, it's like, okay, I'm going to try and buy a card, roughly about 15% below comps, and I'm going to try and sell it at comps or sell it slightly above comps, to make the margins. And I realized that it's so difficult because these days trying to source inventory at 15 or 20% below comps, especially online, it's not easy. You may be able to do it in bulk, like you see some of the videos online on shows whereby they procure tons of inventory at 15% below comps or 20% below comps, right? It's possible, but as a single reseller like myself, based on all the way in Malaysia, it's not that easy. So sourcing part is difficult, and when you source the inventory at slightly higher price compared to everybody else, you would need to price it higher when you factor in the eBay fees, and that's where things become challenging. But having said that, right, it doesn't mean that it was impossible. So I'm going to show you a chart here, and this is basically my eBay sales for starting from January, which is the time I started my business, up to October of this year. So 10 full months, you can see a total revenue of $200,000, and this is before fees and shipping. Okay, pretty decent. Okay, it's not like, you know, some of you guys out there, but not bad starting out. And I think if I can say so myself, I'm actually doing, you know, pretty well compared to some of the other guys out there. Now, how many transactions, you would probably ask, you know, to arrive at this number? It's a total of roughly about 500 transactions only. So talking about average item price of $400. Now, my average items are not around that price range. You know, I do sell items like, you know, a one-on-one shea, right, or a flawless patch auto for $8,000, and I do sell cheap packs for like $15. You know, so I'm pretty skewed. I'm pretty like mixed up in different ends, you know. But average, you're talking about, it's like $400 to derive I wouldn't say annual, 10 months revenue of $200,000. So some of you guys looking at this chart, you know, starting now, you're probably saying, hey, that's not too bad, right? So why is this all this thing about I'm closing out my store? Well, you can see the trend lines, right? It's coming down. Okay, now, is it because that I'm not putting up the right inventory? Is it the demand has come down? Well, I can tell you that it's all the above. Okay, normally, of course, you can attribute, okay, I'm doing MBA, so definitely you're talking about during the off season, that's between April to, let's say, like August or September. It's pretty slow, and then it starts to pick up when the season starts again. But if you look at the chart, right, it's pretty weird because my peak sales comes between June, July, and August, right? And because that's when a lot of people are doing the buying. So obviously, if you think about it, right, if you're saying that I gotta buy during the off season, so I'm one of those sellers during off season, and of course I'm not selling at a discounted price, I'm selling at a profit. It's quite obvious, right? But as the season begins, you can see the sales dwindling down. And I'm going to share with you my revenue for the month of November. We're how many days in? 20 odd days in, coming to the end of November, and I have just one transaction for the month, okay, on eBay. Now, that doesn't mean that my business is inactive. I do sell on different places, but I'm not going to talk about it right now, but just focus on eBay, because eBay has become a place where, for me, right, most of my target audiences for the stuff that I want to sell, they're no longer present on eBay. That's what I think, right? They're moving on to the more larger marketplaces where you will find better quality, you know, the Fanatics marketplace, Fanatics Collect marketplace, even, or for example, Goldin, right? So you find better quality on those marketplaces, and I feel that the structure that in those marketplaces offer, right, the weekly auctions, the set date where, you know, 200 things or 300 items, you know, all closes, talking about basketball cards specifically, closes on the same day, where a buyer, you know, potential buyers can just plan out the week, you know, set a couple of hours aside and focus on buying at that particular period, as opposed to being, you know, the sporadic auctions that you have throughout the week for eBay. But then you ask, what about fixed price? All right, fixed price is good, right? You know, the listing is free, right? You only pay when the item is sold, no harm, no foul. True, okay, but the number of eyes that actually go to fixed price is actually pretty low. And ask yourself, right, when you're searching items on eBay, do you actually scour the fixed price? More likely you're going to search what's the running auctions, right? What are the stuff that's ending today? What's the stuff that's ending tomorrow? Now, fixed price doesn't get that much love unless, of course, you set some alerts, okay, some safe searches on certain cards you're looking for, certain players you're looking for. But then again, you know, the most strategies that people employ for fixed prices, price it really high, set a best offer, and then wait till somebody gives you an offer. And based on my experience last 10 months, you know, you find that, you know, this strategy actually doesn't really work, right? So if you price it, like if the comps is 100, for example, and you put a 120 or best offer, you know, people are just going to still come back down to you at 90 or 70. All right, this makes no difference. You know, even though you price it at 500, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that because you price it 500, somebody's going to give an offer for 200. Not necessarily the case. In fact, they may just ignore your listing completely. So I find fixed price listings are kind of like, it's just fluff, right? And that's one of the major advantages that eBay technically has against Fanatics Collect, against all. Now, they do have their own fixed price marketplaces, but the number of audiences on those fixed price listings are even fewer than eBay. So to me, auctions are the way to go. There is this element of rush. There's this element of the ability to buy it at under, right? So generally people gravitate towards that. And between eBay has always been the king of auctions. Everybody talks about that, but with all the news about shilling and stuff like that, so it makes it extremely challenging. Non-paying returns, right? You have all experienced this. It makes it really challenging to operate on eBay. And another point that for me that's increasingly difficult is the amount of, I wouldn't say negative feedback, the amount of unsatisfied customers. Now, eBay takes customer satisfaction very seriously, right? So they measure you based on a percentage system. So for example, they give you a threshold of 2%. So if you have 2% of customers or more are dissatisfied with your products or your service, you're going to get a red flag. And red flag means a whole host of restrictions. Okay, so if you're doing lots and lots of volume, right, you're selling like 1,000 items a month, or maybe $5,000 items a month, 2% is quite a big threshold, right? That allows you many room for complaints. Of course, ideally you don't want any, but helps you many. But when you sell, for myself, right, when I'm selling, like say 400 items over the course of 10 months, that's like 40 items a month. 2% on that is essentially just one transaction every single month that can allow for one dissatisfied customer a month. So the moment you have 2 dissatisfied customers a month for whatever reason, it came late, the package was crumpled, and you guys have quite aware, right? USPS, when the items get sending around, goes in circles from one transit point to the other. So it's beyond our control. And sometimes you get a very understanding buyer, sometimes you don't, but these are the kind of things that actually will give you these kind of negative responses, right? That severely impacts the I would say the efficiency as well as your store, right? So I've encountered a number of that. I had to challenge a number of that. It's pretty exhausting. So for me, it's pretty much more efficient to resort to different methods of selling or different platforms of selling, and that's what's come down to the final decision of why I decided to temporarily cease my eBay store. So this video is not about kind of like me ranting about why eBay is terrible and things like that. It's more of to let you guys know that the reality of as a full-time reseller, everybody thinks it's easy. Just get a bunch of cards, list it up, try and sell it and ship it, right? Get paid. So it's much more than that. Okay, so eBay, it's a very competitive playing field. For a lot of people out there that has been in the space, on the eBay space for a number of years, they know the ins and outs. Okay, I consider myself still new, but for me, given that there are many other alternatives that can be better, okay, I think that's pretty much more effective for my business, and that's where I'm gravitating my resources towards. I'm going to talk about a bit more about that in subsequent videos, but for today, just sharing with you guys, despite doing about $200,000 in revenue for the last 10 months, okay, I just decided that maybe eBay may not be the right platform for me, at least for me, going forward. Okay, that's all I got for this one. Thanks guys for watching. Do like, subscribe for the next video. See you guys. Cowboys out.